Greetings from DD Nagaland. We are bringing a live coverage of Waves of Empathy, stories, songs and conversations, and even organized by Project Empathy through the Naga Oral History Project being held at Kohima. This event brought together scholars, educators, artists, musicians, and community voices to explore empathy in Naga society through stories, songs, and conversations. Join us as we share the highlights of Waves of Empathy, showcasing the rich cultural heritage of Nagaland and empathy in its society. Mrs. Viba Lakera, thank you for joining us on DD Nagaland. What inspired you to launch Project Empathy and explore the concept of empathy in Naga society?
So I visited Nagaland for the first time in 2022. And when I came here, what I found amongst people was that there's a sense of warmth, there's a sense of great friendliness amongst people, and also that trusting nature of Naga people. And it really made me curious, why are people so different than the people where I come from are, you know. For example, I would be on the road in my car, and I would look out of the car window and people would be smiling back if I was smiling at them. If you do that in Delhi, the people get very, they get suspicious. Why are you smiling at me? What is wrong with you? So, and smile is the first, gesture that we make towards another human being to make them, to tell them that you are welcome. You're welcome in my place. So these were my impressions initially, and then I met teachers in Assam Rifles Public School. They would talk so softly during the workshops that I was conducting, and that also left me wondering why teachers are not talking loudly, because essentially the requirement of the job is such that teachers talk loudly. They become a bit controlling, a bit dominating even, because it comes in their system by controlling a group of kids. But here were teachers who were talking so softly, and it really made me wonder what was going on over here. These personal observations, they became premises for me to start thinking about that things are different out here in Nagaland, and is the empathy quotient higher in Naga people than the rest of the people in India? So we wanted to test this hypothesis. Therefore, the project Naga Oral History Stories of Empathy was conceived out of these personal observations. And we joined hands with 3 colleges: Modern College, Oriental College and Don Bosco College. And there was a questionnaire which was handed over to the students. They went back to their villages. They interviewed the village elders. They brought back stories to us. And then the birth of Weaves of Empathy took place. The goal of Project Empathy is very simple. We want to create human bonds in all the communities, amongst all the members of the society, be it the students, teachers, parents, or even professionals. Because I feel that today we are living in a world which has got a lot of emotional poverty. People don't bond and gel with each other emotionally. We are all sucked in by the digital platforms. We are together, but we are not together. So the aim and goal of Project Empathy is to generate these human bonds by, introducing concepts and nuances of empathy to the people. The call for action for Project Empathy is to address mental health issues, because empathy directly relates is responsible for having better mental health amongst people, and to be able to help in nation building. So these are the primary goals and objectives of our organizations. Weaves of Empathy has been how should I say, it's a logical ending, or rather it's a logical progression for a journey which started by my coming over here to Kohima. And now we have documented all the experiences that I was having. The students got back from their villages, and with the help of Mr. Parashar Barua, who's an acclaimed filmmaker, we have created Weaves of Empathy, which is a very beautiful film, which also showcases how people in Nagaland view, how they experience, and how they practice empathy on a day-to-day basis. And I think it can become a great message for the rest of India and for the rest of the world even, the uniqueness of Naga culture, which is rooted in empathy and compassion.
To please move towards the display area to view Imshadson Imchun's creation, the tassel dresses, inspired by the Ao Naga traditional rich woman's shawl. To open the segment, we begin with the strength of poetry. We invite Rita Crocha to read an excerpt from Heritage by Tensula Ao.
Heritage by Tensula Ao. They languish, these uprooted treasures of my heritage, caged within imposing structures in designated spaces, with labels that scream, do not touch. I view the various exhibits and wonder whether they would respond if I spoke to them in the language of my birth. But artifacts wrenched from their origin must, by reason, remain mute. So I wander aimlessly from one chamber to another, when suddenly I spy. So I wander aimlessly from one chamber to another, when suddenly I spy a never before seen, gorgeous body plot of glorious colors, reposing inside a glass cage. As if pulled by a mystic thread, I draw closer and read the label that proclaims this marble to have come from my tribe.
Today we have a young designer from Nagaland whose weaver designer collaboration is now on exhibit in a museum in Berlin. So that's the reason why we wanted to showcase.
There are two dresses here, the one in white and one in red. The white one is woven on a shuttle loom, and the one on right is woven on a going loom. The one on white is an original design from the Lakme Fashion Week collection, which I was part of in 2009. The collection was called How Many Stories Do You Read on My Face? It's actually a title of a song called, by Cindy Toy. She's an artist. It's made in polyester, and it was actually woven in collaboration with an entrepreneur called Goturi Su.
In the bygone days of the other life, before the advent of the word, spilling the blood of foes was the honor got. Head takers became acclaimed tribal heroes, earning the merit to wear special cloths and ornaments, and live in grand houses. We believe that our gods lived in the various forms of nature, whom we worshipped with unquestioning faith. Then came a tribe of strangers into our primordial territories, armed with only a book and promises of a land called heaven, declaring that our trees and mountains, rocks and rivers were no gods, and that our songs and stories nothing but tedious primitive nonsense. We listened in confusion to the new stories and too soon allowed our knowledge of other days to be trivialized into taboo. We no longer dared to sing our old songs in worship to familiar spirits of the land or in praise to our legendary heroes. And if we ever told stories, it was to the silent forest, and our songs were heard only by the passing wind in a land swept clean of ancient gods.
The outside world have for us Nagas, because they just trace that one lineage, one line, one thread, and say, oh, your ancestors were headhunters. But we were actually so much more. And headhunter, they make it so they just kind of sensationalize it and make it like, oh, that kind of thing, I have no words, just sounds for it. But actually, we, like also in Parasha's film, as you had people who watched it earlier, will note that actually there was so much of peacekeeping also amongst our communities in Nagaland. And it was just a belief system that the soul resides in the head of a human. That is how the tradition of head taking, it's not like they were after everyone's heads, but it was for very, very specific rituals that they did this head taking tradition.
We honor those whose contribution has been irreplaceable, the students. Young listeners who traveled across villages, sat at the feet of elders, asked with humility, and preserved memories that may have otherwise been lost. This film carries their sincerity, their courage, their empathy. A very special thanks to Anula Zoe, whose cultural wisdom and guidance have helped us add so much depth to this event. Thank you, Anula.
Alang logo jatara kirangko logo ananda kirangko logo mar satain da war atong chimka war yinpila namjam danowa tao tiga mor nayang nyarong danowa chinko yosar.
My name is Kalase and I was born in Balasan, Kohima. I'm a student of Temesco College, currently pursuing my Bachelor of Arts in History. When this project Empathy crew came to our college, I never heard about the word empathy. For me, I've never delved deep into the history of my own village, but I'm still looking forward to learn more about it.
Naga society is unique, it's special, it's different. In today's world, with so much tools that connect us, those very tools and those very technologies are the ones that divide us again, polarize us, create divisions. But we all know that empathy is the thread and that treasure that connects, that unites, that brings us together. Our society, Naga society, as I said, the entire community, clan, village, colony, whatever you call it, the entire community celebrated with joy when a newborn happened. When somebody passed away, every home lost somebody. When somebody is getting married, we all worked together. We've worked in everybody's field turn by turn, and we did harvest turn by turn. We were community, remain community, and I think it reflects the empathy that our society is, how we've grown up, and how we should continue to teach our coming generations so that these rich traditions, culture, heritage, the Naga way of life is not lost.
Waves of Empathy reminds us of the beauty and depth of Naga oral culture, where every story is a thread and every thread carries life and wisdom. This tradition passed on from generation to generation. The power of Naga oral culture lies in its ability to carry emotions, identity, history, and also valuable information. We have done so far for centuries through stories, songs, folktales, and ancestral narratives. We have preserved a living archive of who we are, rooted in community, courage, and a deep connection of our land. The stories are not just past memories, but they are a way of thinking, teaching, reconciling, and that keep us together. As an elderly Naga, I've grown to appreciate this practice so much, as I vividly remember my parents and my elders told me when I was a young girl. To this day, I remember them. And along with the stories, I remember the one who told me the stories. Hence, our stories beautifully keep the past alive and the present, and remind us that culture is strongest when it is spoken, shared, and lived together.
I was getting a little emotional while watching some of the scenes. As a young 22-year-old captain in the army, and during tough times, 1993 and I was posted to Nagaland. 1993 was an era which all the students may not be aware. It was tough for a young army officer to come this far. You were fearful because you also feared that you may get hit by a bullet one day and you will die, unknown, unnamed. Also anxious how you will be treated. And I was told by my CEO that I am being placed in a village known as Tusam, that was in Tangkhul area, neighboring the Miluri district, now Miluri district. I have never witnessed hate in Nagaland, ever. However dark the times were, however tough the times were. And I believe that a heart devoid of hate is the most purest form of existence for human beings.
Ma'am, you have spoken about empathy and sympathy. Can you describe the difference?
It has to be understood, felt, realized, imbibed, implemented, continued, and it's a lifetime lesson.
He would begin by listening, just patiently listening to what the students have to say or anyone has to say. So for me, empathy begins with listening.
All these things to empower our people to meet their popular aspirations by virtue of our footprint, because we are in the most remotest areas of every state that we are deployed in.
I just want to ask you, who is a Gen Z? How do you define
it's me, it's agency is me, and then it's who I am representing as myself through my social medias or how I am carrying myself.
One of the first books that I was commissioned to write about was on the Chakasangs, A Window to Peck District, which required me and the co-author to travel the length and breadth of Peck District as well. So I think it was really that point of time which sort of introduced to me formally introduced to me my own roots and culture. And coming to think of it now, I think it was also one of the reasons that led me to publishing books with a desire to preserve stories of our roots and origin.
I collect the debris of temporary homes. I make promises I cannot keep. Someone called me a gypsy once. Restless wanderer, rootless instability. Tui ikla paribo. All I ever wanted was a place for myself, to belong, to be alone, not lonely, to be at home. Janibo ik din konti ase. Yeah, I know. Wherever I go, I can only take myself with me. I know where home is. This is my story.
Through the fire and the pain, walk with me past the sorrow and the pain. We'll rise, we'll bend, but we'll never break. I see the cracks in your armor, the weight in your strength, the shadows you carry, the tears you can't hide. But everyone is the story, every scar a fight. Together we'll weather through the darkest night. Walk with me through the fire and the rain. Walk with me past the sorrow and the pain. We'll rise, we'll bend, we'll never break. Hand in hand.
That's a wrap on our coverage of Waves of Empathy, Stories, Songs and Conversation. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have enjoyed the highlights of this event. Signing off, Didi Nagaland. Until next time.